It's hard to break a sweat in the winter. I mean, unless you're shoveling, maybe. Snow blowing. Running from the car to the house. But mostly it's hard to break a sweat in the winter, but it's coming. Warmer weather is coming. We may not trust that, but we know the cycles of the seasons and how they move. And so we know that soon the weather will be warmer. And then you can break a sweat. Maybe it's lawn mowing. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe it's a brisk walk in one of Eau Claire's parks. Maybe it's some kind of athletic activity, running, cycling, whatever it might be. But summer is a time when we break a sweat. And when we break a sweat, we get thirsty. Now, some people slake that thirst with maybe a soda or a pop if you're driving from the west. Some people slake that thirst maybe with a beer, some other kind of drink. But there's nothing better at all when you just need to dab the sweat from your brow. Nothing better than water. Just the clink of those ice cubes, that sound of the water pouring into the glass, and that moment when you're just parched. You know, your tongue is twice its normal size, and it's dry, and you're tired, and you maybe sit down in your favorite chair, inside or outside, and you raise that glass to your lips and right? It's coming. And it's coming soon. She didn't know how thirsty she was. Hers was maybe not just a physical thirst, but Jesus saw something in her that was thirsty, really thirsty. One imagines that this maybe story happened in the heat of the summer. And she was dispatched by her family, which was her job, to go to the well and to get water. So not just her, but her family, her kin, her whole circle might know the refreshing feeling of that life-giving water. Now, she couldn't simply put a glass into the refrigerator door and do it the easy way. So she was thirsty. Even the very act of getting water made you thirsty. But Jesus saw something more. He saw a thirst in her that was willing to take a risk. You see, she said to Jesus, whoa, you're going to take water from me, a Samaritan woman, the lowest of the low? You're going to take that risk, Jesus? But don't forget, it was a risk for her, too. Because had she said when she got back to her community, hey, I got this water from this Jewish guy, the water would have been the last thing she had to worry about. So she took a risk too. And what did she get in reward for the risk? Well, she got two things. The first was that Jesus said, examine yourself. You don't have just one husband, you've had 5. And even this one isn't your husband, and we won't go very far with that today, but I think you get the idea. She was maybe outside of the moral code. So he said, examine yourself. Maybe he meant physically. Maybe he meant spiritually. But what Jesus said to her was very, very clear. You want the living water? I want you to think about it first. Not that he was going to withhold it for her, because in fact, the very act of asking that question meant that Jesus had already delivered. He had already delivered to her what she needed the most, what she thirsted for the most, what water would help her the most. He wasn't dangling his love and care and kindness and grace like a carrot on a stick. No, he had already delivered for her, but she needed to spend a moment to think about what he was really getting at, this living water. Not just the water that we all need to survive physically, but the water we all need to survive at all. Jesus himself. And of course, we could go on and on about the baptism analogies and all of the different water images that are in the Bible, but for today, this living water will suffice. Because you know it, or you wouldn't be here. You know that living a life with Jesus satisfies a thirst that you have. And it's different for every one of you. But somehow, in some way, Jesus Christ and His church, through which we experience Him, satisfies a thirst in you like a hot summer day. My favorite is mowing the lawn. Oh, man. Sometimes I mow the lawn just because I get to drink water afterwards. And because it's long. And now I have neighbors. She had to examine herself first. Oh my gosh, that's right. Maybe this isn't the life. Maybe I've been drinking of the wrong well, the wrong water all along. Water that will not fill, water that will not satisfy, water that will eventually, like every well, dry up. And then she had to think of something else. And good for her, she did. She went back to her community and she didn't keep a secret. She went back to her community and she said, "You are not going to believe this." Not only did I have a drink of water with a man, a Jewish man, nothing happened, but he told me about water that will not end. Come on, let's go, come and see this. You've got to see this guy. He told me everything I've ever done. I can't understand it completely, but come on. Following isn't always easy, is it? But I want to tell you a little secret about following Jesus. It's as easy as riding a bike. I won't have bike pictures in every sermon, like I did last time. But you see the one out in front? If you ever watch a bike race, and I'll get to another one in just a minute, but do you ever walk a bike race? Do you know why they ride in that nice straight line? So look at the guy way out in front. The guy way out in front, he's pushing the wind. He's spending 100% of the energy. 100%. He's doing all the work. The second guy there, he's only doing about 75% of that work. The guys behind that, by the time you get to the end of that picture, they're at about 60 to 65% of the effort of the guy in the front. The secret today is that when we follow, Jesus does 100% of the work for us. Jesus does 100%, went to the cross for us, teaches us, leads us. He does 100% of the work. And if we tuck in behind Him, it's a lot easier than when we're out there on our own, pedaling away, trying to do 100%. You need a lot more water to do 100%. But when we tuck in behind, what we know is that it's easier until we are strong enough to lead. And that's what she did. She came to the well, weak, confused, lost maybe, and she heard Jesus, and she followed. And you know what? She got strong. And then what did she do? She went back to her community and said, I'll lead you. You follow me. I'll cut the wind for a while. You follow me. Same idea. Now, I don't recommend this on 94. But you get the idea. Following is hard. Following Jesus is a challenge sometimes. It's not always easy. It's not always easy to put feet from mattress to floor on a Sunday morning. It's not always easy to be able to say to our neighbor, hey, you're not going to believe this. Come on. Come to Trinity. You got to hear this story. You got to hear about Jesus. You got to hear about this water, which is even more life-giving than on a hot summer day. So that's why we tuck in behind. We tuck in behind Jesus and follow Him. And when we get strong, then we do the same. We lead for someone else. So your homework this week is this. If you haven't already, find someone who you really respect, who you really care about. Someone might be someone you know, might be an author you really respect, might be a parent, a child. Anybody can do this of any age. Tuck in behind. Follow them. See where Jesus is leading them. And then when you're strong enough, when you feel like you can do it, pop out of that fishbowl and lead someone else. It's the whole basis of our youth program. Leaders develop leaders. We can do it. Because after all, who doesn't need a cool cup of water every once in a while? Amen.